So I went to Alex Hormozi's $35,000 10-hour workshop at their HQ in Vegas. And the biggest thing I took away from it, it wasn't like one single crazy new tactic. There were a lot of things that I'm going to get into here, but it was primarily how simple everything can actually be at higher levels, but also how seriously they execute on things and how they make people such a crazy ROI on such a large investment so consistently. Because the gap between where most people are and where they want to be, it's not these like arbitrary things like intelligence or talent. It all comes down to how they think about hiring, pricing, and just making business decisions overall. And once you see it, everything really starts to make sense at a much, much higher level. So I'm going to break down the biggest things I took away from this. There were 11 things, as well as what actually matters for growing a highly profitable and a highly efficient business. Now, the first one here is team caliber. This was the first thing that really stood out to me. It was the quality of people working at Alex's company. So a few of these things here are actually me observing how acquisition.com itself is run so that we can look at what people are doing, not just solely what they are saying. But the quality of people was very high. They had team members from BlackRock, from Harvard, etc., all very highly intelligent people, and all with real world experience or, worst case scenario, a high level of intelligence and proclivity to learn very quickly and to do better than, just about anybody else would in the role. One guy exited an agency, so on and so forth. But above all, the team, again, it's highly skilled people who are also highly intelligent. They have 7 interviews to find the best people. The last one's on site. If the person's not local, they'll fly them out and have them actually be there on site to see if they're a culture fit with the rest of the team after they make it through 6 previous stages of the interview process to demonstrate that they're actually a quality enough person to work at this company. And another cool thing here is that most of their team members are viewers of Alex and Layla's channels. So organic tends to attract people who are similar to you in terms of the way you think. And Alex, being a smart person who works hard, etc., is going to attract a lot of these types of people. And he also has a massive pool to recruit from and be very selective from. Now, the second thing, which is also an observation of how they do business, is preparation is key. So what their team does before one of these workshops is they get on calls, they email back and forth with each and every client before every event to understand the depths of every business so that they can give the best possible advice. At this event, there were only 9 businesses in the room around a conference table, a lot like what you'd see in some of his content. So this is a highly personalized, highly tailored service where what they do for every client is they create a customized game plan based on the information they have about the business that's going to give each person a really significant jump in terms of what they should do next and taking them to the next level in their business. And so yes, obviously for a $35,000 price tag, they're going to do this. But when you combine that with the quality of people that I was talking about just a second ago, you do really feel like they truly care and they're legitimately capable of solving your problem because they get very granular with everything. They get into all the nitty-gritty little details and do what smart people do, which is ripping everything apart and finding what they believe to be the best possible path forward for you. Because the service is essentially outsourcing thinking to them. And as part of this preparation stage, what they do is they give you a team member that's most relevant to your situation. So for example, the BlackRock team member who is in the room, he was assigned to a private equity company that specialized in buying and growing HVAC companies. And this guy who was at BlackRock before, he had direct experience doing exactly that. So there's a matchmaking component to these workshops to ensure that everybody's best taken care of. Now, the third one here was actually pretty eye-opening in some ways, not because of the actual learning lesson, but the example and the way that it was demonstrated and taught. So the idea is that constraints matter a lot more than ideas. So they value constraints over ideas. And I'll give you an example. So one guy in the room, he had an agency who was doing over $400,000 a month, and he shared an idea of his business, but one of Hormozi's team members said, "That's why I love entrepreneurs, not the constraint," and then changed the topic of conversation back to what actually mattered. And so what this shows is, A, people who are doing these high numbers per year, it demonstrates that even they fall victim to the same things that somebody who's doing $15,000 a month might fall victim to. But B, it shows the simplistic discipline required to stay on course on improving a simple, stripped down business rather than adding new things because they could be helpful, could add revenue. If you add enough things, it's hard to manage them all, and then your business becomes a highly complex mess. Now, to switch gears a little bit, the fourth one here that I learned was that I'm doing well. I learned that almost everything I know is fundamentally correct and that I have very good judgment. And that's priceless. When you hear such experienced people saying things that you know are the right things to do, etc., it's very reassuring. And it shows you that, hey, you're actually on the right track, and it's very validating. So that on its own builds a lot of confidence. So I got a lot of confidence from that. And of course I have blind spots and I lack in certain areas like everybody, but it's easy to think that you may not be looking at things the right way because you're kind of trapped alone in your little box in your business and you don't really have a reference point for whether or not you're thinking about the right things. So it's nice to hear that my thinking is very, very well on pace for where I was trying to go at the time. So it was nice to hear, but it's also good for me knowing forward that my judgment is sound and I can trust it to make my own decisions and be very confident about them. Something that Alex talks about in his content sometimes is increase prices, increase prices, increase prices. Now, they talked about this a lot. There's a way to do it. There's a way not to do it. But they especially want you to be raising prices if your close rate is above 40%. Like there was a guy in the room who ran I believe it was a tree removal company, and his close rate was like 83% or something like that. Like almost everybody he would talk to would close. And so what they were saying, because they have a mathematical model for this, was that he could at least triple his pricing and still be perfectly fine. But the beauty of this, right, this is the easiest way to increase revenue, while more importantly, cutting the amount of customers or clients you need to have, and therefore increasing the efficiency and profitability of your business. Because if you have three $5,000 clients that all cost you $1,000 to manage to serve, you're making $15,000 and it costs you $3,000. But if you tripled your pricing in this example, you're making $15,000 and your cost is $1,000, and you don't have 3 different points of contact and all of this complexity that comes with serving more clients. So this upsell, because he has the core workshop that was $5K at one point, maybe it's like $8 or $10K now, I'm really not sure. But he raised the price for this workshop apparently by 4 times as they improve the product over time. That's what his team was saying. If your close rate's at 83%, they aren't recommending triple your price overnight. They're recommending raising it incrementally and learning the sales process throughout that process until you fall in the range of, say, a 30-35% close rate kind of thing. Now, another cool takeaway, which is something that people often experience when they go to in-person events like this, is that successful people aren't special. Some of them can be, and usually those are like the extreme outlier, hyper-successful people. But again, more of a belief upgrade. They're just people. So here's some of the people that were in the room. There's the fastest growing UK fitness franchise. This guy wearing a 6-figure watch. Another guy just showed up, young guy, as a marketer for a private equity company. So that company paid all this money for him to travel out there, just for him to go alone, just to sit there and get marketing intel. Like, that's a real money move, right? When you're around people who are doing these kinds of things, it really, increases your beliefs, especially when you see them, in this example, a guy who's doing $400K a month, falls victim to a simple mistake. It's like, well, that proves to you this idea that I was talking about here, where it's not these arbitrary things like intelligence that make you successful. That's not, it can help, but it's like very far from a requirement to make crazy amounts of money to be highly intelligent. And it's not even just intelligence, though. Oftentimes it's discipline. And what it is, because I don't know how smart that guy is. He might be really smart, but it's this discipline. And more than that, it's understanding what the right thing to focus on is. And so that's why I talk about constraints being more important than ideas. This is something that they really pushed, because it wasn't just that one guy he said this to. He said it to a few people throughout the day. Focus on the constraint of the business. And the reality is, people who do really, really big numbers, usually it's just that they've been playing the game for quite a while And there's been a lot of compounding that's happened over time. Like these guys with the 400K a month agency, they were in business for like 20 years. They just got good at doing the one thing. Now, a cool little thing here, another belief upgrade for me, was around cold email. One of Hormozi's team members in his agency, he built and exited an agency. He was getting a 25% positive reply rate via cold email. Cool. A lot of people in the industry shoot for 2%. Highest I'd seen has been about 10, 15% kind of thing. But this is a cool little belief upgrade because it just helps you think bigger and think about what's possible and play the game a little bit differently to just approach things like cold email differently. Now, the next one, which I think was probably the biggest takeaway out of all of these for me, was how to move fast. So the faster you test, the faster you move. And an approximate quote from one of Hormozi's team members was, the reason I grew so fast, this is the guy who sold his agency, was I just tested things way faster than everybody else. And he said something along the lines of, I would start with 5 landing pages, pick the best one within a couple days, and then move on to headlines before anyone else had even tested anything. Because in reality, and this is actually what I did in my agency when starting YouTube ads, I tested 5 completely different ads, found one that hit hard, scaled, and then continued testing new ads, understanding that that one worked and why that one worked from there. Now, what he also said though, which was, I think, probably the biggest part of this breakthrough for me, was to run lightweight tests. So I used to pour my heart and soul into tests a few years ago. That would leave me with the fear of failure, which made me even more perfectionistic, which delayed my testing even further. Because you're kind of thinking in your head like, well, what does this say about me if this test fails? And so it made testing things very, very slow. Conversely to this example here. So this is what I think most people fall into when it comes to testing. So now what I'm doing is I'm testing ideas, these things outside of myself. I'm not testing what I perceive to be my own abilities. I used to think that everything should work the first time around or else there's something wrong with me, and that's just not how the game works. So when you separate your identity from tests, that really helps, right? So you are not your tests or the results of your tests. This alone, again, helped me move significantly faster in both my life and business, because if you put 10% as much time into testing something, I mean, it's a test. Like there's like an 80% chance it's not going to work, or a 60% chance, or whatever the number may be, depending on the test, whatever. But like if you're testing something kind of wild and kind of risky, like do you really want to spend 40 hours on that thing? What if you could spend 4 or 40 minutes and just get a rough idea to see if it's worth spending 40 hours on? This is what I found to really help me be more nimble and more quick moving. Now, the next one may sound basic, but there's more to it, and it's this idea of value-based pricing. We all know, it's pretty commonly discussed, don't charge per hour or for time, charge based on value. Cool. But the way they did this was very interesting, right? So you're charging in proportion to the value that you are delivering, right? And ideally, you want to be getting every customer a 5 to a 10 plus times return on their investment with you if you're doing some kind of thing like this, like the consulting or whatever the case may be. And they do this just at another level. Each business, they only spend about 30 to 45 minutes on, but they're giving you guidance that will make you way more than the tens of thousands of dollars you're paying to be there for that day. They're essentially giving you a game plan that's going to last you 6 or 12 months so that you make a ton of money in that time, and then you pay them to come back for another day and rinse and repeat. So on their end, they do a bunch of preparation. They serve you a detailed plan. You can ask them questions about it and clarify and everything like that. Then you go back home, you go and execute on the plan for an extended period. You see that it works, and then you come back for more. That's the structure of their business. So a lot of people will go in, they'll go in for a day, they'll spend their $35,000 and they'll pay for flights and hotels and food and everything. They'll go out of their way to go to this HQ. They'll receive advice. They'll go home. They'll implement for 6 months. It'll make them an extra, $1 million or $500,000 or potentially more. And then if they're happy with their business there, great. And if they want to come back for more, they can come back for more. Now, another thing, again, something I knew here, is the idea of zooming out and in. But this was solidified for me, and it really helped me show, again, this is one of those things that I look at that, good, I know that I'm viewing business in the right way. Again, seeing it in their team just showed me this. So you need to be able to zoom out and make big picture strategic decisions on the business, but you also need to be able to zoom in and get into all the little tactical, granular details, right? because business can actually be very complicated. For example, just within the skill of sending cold emails, you have to be able to make sure you're hitting the inbox properly. You need to learn how to build the right list, what lead magnet to offer, how to actually script your emails, how to do subject lines, and then how to make sure that your lead magnet actually is related to the service that you're selling and how you can transfer all of that over. That's just one skill. But within making sure that you're not showing up in spam, there's a set of sub-skills there. And then there's a set of sub-skills within writing good subject lines, and then the first line of your email, and then the actual email body, the call to action, again, the lead magnet. There's sub-skills within all of these things, and that's just sending cold emails. That doesn't have anything to do with what happens after they respond. What time do you call them? How do you make sure your phone numbers aren't showing up as spam? You get the idea. Business can actually be extremely complicated, and at the highest levels, business is extremely complicated, and it's treated in these very granular, detailed little ways. So you have to be able to zoom out and do the big stuff, but also zoom in and do the little stuff properly as well. So it's okay if you're getting lost in the details sometimes. This is my personal takeaway. It's not their words, but I think it's okay to get lost in the details. I'm very detail oriented, and it's about having a balance between both. Again, the zooming out and the zooming in. Another cool thing here is that on Hormozi's team, sales managers, they aren't actually the best closers. All their sales managers aren't the best closers. So if you're worried about having a sales manager that isn't the best closer, or if you're hiring closers who are better than you and you're worried about there being this like respect or balance or power dynamic shift change thing, understand that sales management and closing are two completely different skills. Yes, a sales manager does need to understand, how to close at a reasonable level. But oftentimes what it's about is making sure morale is up, making sure you're only giving people a couple key pointers, and you're managing that person because they're getting lost in their details. They need somebody to be able to zoom out and look at their, big picture, their person, to guide them in the right direction and in the right way, right? So that's how you don't have to worry about the team not respecting you or whoever the sales manager actually is in the business. And so these are 11 things that I learned going there to Vegas and learning from Hormozi's team in one of these 10-hour workshops. So hopefully this was cool and valuable for you. Click whatever's popping up on the screen, and I'll see you